Welcome for those of you who this is your first time coming to your SAP committee meeting. Few updates before we get into the work tonight. We opened a student assignment project survey. This will hopefully give us some anecdotal information from community, staff members, constituents to help us triangulate some data. So looking at just raw data is clearly not the only objective we have. We'll be looking at some survey data, as well as some anecdotal stuff from the actual school leaders. So I've been going to many schools throughout the week to get some information directly from principals and registrars and staff about buildings, boundaries, and programs. So that'll help us kind of have a nice roundabout view on the data. And we will, the survey is posted on our website. We are sending it out weekly to community members and staff. So please, also you guys should take the survey. Please take that. And I think we sent it out. I think Kayla sent it out when she sent out the packet. So we work really collaboratively with our planning team. So all of the data that you guys see, you guys have asked in a few different formats, like how do we get this in different ways? So we have put every data slide that you guys have. Kayla has amazingly put that in Google Docs for you guys, so you have work, you can play around with things and move numbers around and do all kinds of things if you guys are data nerds like me. So fair warning, they are locked, so you can copy and paste them and into a new slide, because we want to make sure that obviously the data we give you stays as is, so we know what you guys are using. Our planning team is also updating enrollment information on our website. So every October, that information, just so you can have a snapshot year to year, gets updated. And we are in the works as we speak. And I think 3 of the 5 tabs have been updated for this coming school year. So when we go back to look at this all together, we'll be again able to look at a snapshot in time for our district for this year. So just want to give you a few updates. So today, we are, it's a bit repetitive, those first few slides, just to get you, obviously, in some context and keep you aware of how we're going to work. So the purposes and non-purposes are printed and put it on your table. So if we start talking about things, if things come up and we say, not a purpose, right, that's going to keep us grounded in what we're here to do. We'll understand today's goal. We'll understand a little bit of a shift in how we're planning. So those first few meetings were really to give me a feel of how you guys work. And to follow the learning, just like in education, like you kind of get feel for your class and then you tailor it to your class. That's what we did for those first 2 meetings. We'll look at some data, and then you'll go in your teams, share out, and we'll talk about what's next. That'll kind of be the cadence of each of the meetings. Okay. That's the schedule. That'll always be in there, and that's really to help us just stay on task, meaning to help me stay on task, especially time-wise. Got your teams. All right, so today's goal and the outcome for this session specifically is really to gain an understanding of just how complex programming is in DeKalb County School District. So if your child is or is not in a program, you are going to gain a pretty good understanding tonight of just the vast amount of programs we have, the different types of programs within programs, the types of programs across the district, qualifications for programs. So this is a very dense packet because we offer so much and in such variety. So we want to look through that, and honestly, tonight is just gain an understanding. We have some guiding questions. They are not for you to answer. I repeat, they are not for you to answer. It is really to probe your thinking as you're looking through the information. And then to really push yourself on a growth mindset around what programming is, right? Just because it is doesn't mean it has to be. Like, that's the whole purpose of reimagining. You don't go into reimagine and come out with the exact same outcomes, right? So as we look through this, keep that kind of growth mindset about what could programming be as we start reimagining. And so the shift really, as I kind of learned you guys, like it probably took me 4 months just to even get a good grasp of DeKalb. So we're going to spend the next 3 or so meetings just trying to understand. Everything you get is not going to be perfect. Bad data in, bad data out, right? And so we are working internally. I've raised some questions both to our registration team and our planning team, things that you guys bring up, I raise those too, so we are working on it. What I will say that is there is some efforts to quantify what we do across this district, and that is beyond obviously my scope, but there is some efforts to make sure that we get better data in, so we get better data out. And one example is we have lots of ways to do registration and no real checks and balances. So if we're making decisions around buildings and boundaries and the data that we have in the system is not accurate, that could really skew some things, right? So we are working on possibly bringing a system to the board soon to hopefully help us with just making sure that we actually know where people live before we start making recommendations around boundaries, right? Because that could skew some things. So we're working on those things as we're working in conjunction. So again, these are exercises, right? And hopefully by the time we really start diving in to reimagining, we'll have hopefully some better information. But use the data we have now to think through the process, to understand kind of where we are, and then hopefully we'll have, again, some better information. So we'll be looking at this, just a lot of learning. So we did some stuff around buildings. I took all of those questions. We are going to answer the questions, not tonight. We're going to do the same around boundaries and the same around programs. And then we're going to collectively all come back as a district or as a committee in February, I think, at AIC. And that's where all those answers will be, right? Because so everybody can hear the same answers at once. And then we'll do a little workshopping of those answers, okay? And then we'll shift to a few things. So we're going to take some time to learn. Then we'll go into values, right? So as you learn something, then as you hopefully have a better understanding of it, then that'll help you kind of create some values and priorities around that. So the district has a set of values and priorities. What are ours, right? And we'll use the districts to push on ours, or maybe to shift a little bit of that thinking. Because once you understand, we can create some values. Then after you have the values and your priorities, then you can start looking at scenarios because you have something to ground it in and something to weigh it against, right? And then after you get a few scenarios, let's also start making sure that we bring that reimagining in. So the scenarios and reimagining, those 8 meetings will be pretty intertwined. So we have a few months to look at this information and reimagine and think, okay? But the first chunk, let's educate ourselves, and let's build some values and priorities around what we've educated ourselves on. So that's the shift after learning, you all. All right, so a little bit about program development. This slide is not obviously a comprehensive list of every single program that has ever been developed in DeKalb, but what it is, what I wanted to show and display is that there are big time periods where programming has been developed, right? And a lot of those programming developments often hinged on some type of government policy or process that has come down, right? No Child Left Behind, and all of a sudden we had some programming, right? And so it's just interesting to see like when a lot of our programming came online, and we haven't had a whole lot in the 2000s, right? So and there is some pretty interesting programming development happening across the country. So there's some opportunity again to reimagine a little bit, and maybe to kind of get the DeKalb up to speed in the kind of 21st century learning, right? So that's all that was to display. Talking a little bit about programs. So when I say learning programs, this is definitely how my brain works. If it does not work for you, I understand. But I have to categorize things in order to understand it, right? So we have, in my opinion, 4 categories. There's special programs, exceptional, there's school choice programs, and school-based programs. The school-based piece is stuff we're learning as we're even going to schools. These are not really marketed anywhere. You may find them on a school website. It could be in response to a group of kids at a school that said, you know what, we really love robotics. All of a sudden there's a robotics program. Those are things that we don't have a great inventory of. Again, unless you go to a school, talk to a principal, or they are marketing it, again, that's a very neighborhood and school-specific programs. We do not have a great inventory of it. I am learning them as we go to schools and talk to principals. Some of the stuff I had no idea. There's schools that have embedded pre-K IEP programs that we did not know about. So there's a lot happening at the school level. Principals kind of have some autonomy to meet the needs of their community, and those are the type of programs that we are a non-purpose of this committee, but they are happening. So I just wanted you guys to know. We have some special programs, and there's some examples here. And these are really programs that support students' academic day, go beyond kind of traditional classroom scope. Students get to opt into a lot of these. I would say that I learned a lot about Fernbank Science Center. There is like, students can, hold on one second, can go into that program in 9th grade for like part of the day, almost an extended science learning. Never heard of it, cool, right? So there's a lot of opt-in. Same with DeKalb Tech North and South. Some are the part day. So these are not necessarily every day, all the time programs, but kids can be placed in and out of those by choice. And then on the other side, on the programs for exceptionalities, students don't get to choose these. They are placed in them based on educational need, IEP minutes, et cetera, right? And so with these two examples, a lot of the times, these are not numbers we necessarily control all the time, or especially on the exceptionality side. Sometimes you don't know what kids we're getting, what challenges kids have, what exceptions they need until they're well into the program or well into their education trajectory, or they move in with these things, right? So these are a little harder to plan for, if that makes sense. On this side, we have some wiggle room on playing around with what those look like, where those may be located, et cetera. Yes?
I met with Fernbank.
Oh.
I'm science coordinator for several years, so I have a lot of past history with Fernbank. So I went and met with Fernbank because I was concerned that the only thing showing up in our data was the STT program.
Mm-hmm.
So I have some extra data, and I'll send it to you. But
Please.
in 22-23 school year, they touched 76,272 DeKalb County students.
So she went to Fernbank and met with them about what they are offering, and they touched 7,000.
76,272 students in DeKalb touched Fernbank through their various programs in the last.
76,000 students touched Fernbank in their various programs.
STT is so small due to lack of space, so they have a limit on how many students they can take. So that's part of it. But the biggest thing Fernbank did is visits to Fernbank. Almost 18,000 students in DeKalb made trips as field trips.
They do field trips throughout the district,
they went
yes.
to schools, and going out to schools, they saw 30,000 students by going out. So their staff is reaching far more than what the STT numbers.
The STT numbers is what you guys are showing, and I will happily take that information and share it. Yes, please do. And again, an example of the complexity of programs in DeKalb, right? And so we will be looking at a lot of these. There is the school choice one is probably the largest part of your packet, and school choice obviously reports under this umbrella, but it also impacts the most students that move across the district. So unlike a Fernbank where you are assigned to that building, that is touch and that is impact, and that is wonderful. School choice means you go to a different school. That impacts finances, that impacts FTE, full-time teachers. It impacts how we may look at boundaries, right? And so we want to we're going to spend a lot of time on that school choice piece, even though some of these on the specialty and exceptionalities are important, and we're doing great work in it. That school choice chunk is really the movement of children throughout this district, okay? The largest movement. So we want to make sure we spend a lot of time there. All right, I'm done talking. We're getting to work. So you guys have, let me go back to each of your teams has a chunk. Again, because school choice is so heavy, everyone or someone in your group should be looking at school choice. And then there's some other options as well. So if you guys want to break it up, or if everybody wants to look at everything, similar to last week, you guys have a worksheet. Kayla has some hard copies for you guys if you like them. But again, somebody got to be the note taker and put the information on your worksheet. And again, we're really just pushing questions, thoughts. So your worksheet is actually what is coming up. What are your thoughts about? You don't have to answer the questions, but those are the questions that we will be bringing back up time and time again as we go through the process. Yes? All right, let's get to work. Pardon me, just a quick announcement. I don't know why I have a British accent. If you guys refresh, you should be able to get into your Google Drives. That's one. I think Kayla came around and did that. And back table. Jennings table. I just have a quick announcement, table 5, quick announcement. So you guys should all have access hopefully to the Google Drive now. Yes, okay. Yes. And hold on, real quick. And there's a data point that I was asked to get, and that was, and this table just opened it up, but we were asked about private school and charter school data. So I did call Godot, and they gave us the data. Look at that. It's in your Google Drive. So that is the last 5 years of actuals of private school and charter school information. I think the charters maybe by grade. So that just gives you some information of how many kids are not attending DeKalb but live in the DeKalb boundaries, right? There is a lot. So, and why that is important is that we don't want to reimagine so tight that we don't have flexibility if children come back. And look at the actuals, because you could see prior to COVID, what that looked like versus what it looks like now, right? And if the prior to COVID numbers, we can bank on that a little bit more, right? Because that was happening before this happened. So we want to just, as we reimagine, consider like, let's not get so small that we couldn't serve those kids if they came back, yeah? Okay, continue. My team and was planning and all the people I talked to. Joy. I don't know what that mic was doing. Amen. All right. Eventually we're getting here. Okay. So again, the questions really weren't for you to say yes or no, right? These are like, as we start thinking through this, what would it really mean for school choice to be a right for all students, right? Is it feasible for school choice to be a right for all students? If it isn't, how do we still make sure that every school that a child goes to is still high quality, high education, even if they don't go to a school choice school, et cetera, right? And so I think what the questions did do is pose some hard push you guys to think through this a little bit more at an in-depth level and push off of each other's experiences and learnings. And that is literally what this process is. And I love it because you guys have been talking about some really great things. So thank you for that. And none of these decisions will be easy as we pose these to the board. But at minimum, I would love to go to the board and say that they were very thoughtful and that we really did look at data. You guys, there's probably going to be poor me and Kayla, like 100 questions between the groups to try to sift through and categorize, and then we're going to have some fun meetings across the district to try to answer as many of them as possible so we could really come back at that fourth meeting with a real understanding of the type of information we're looking at. The other thing I want to pose is we're not fixing it all. It's just not possible, right? We could barely get through a packet for programs in a meeting, right? So we're really going to have to eventually get to a place like, again, that priority and consideration piece will really help narrow some stuff down for us because we will not be able to fix all or solve all the problems. But as we ground ourselves in our priorities and considerations, and the priorities will ground what we're gonna look at or determine, or recommend around buildings, boundaries, and programs. The considerations will be how we start measuring that as we come to the board. So when we go to the board, I say collectively, because I'll be representing all of us, there may be several recommendations around boundaries, several recommendations around programs, right? But at some point, we got to push all that together to make sense of it all, because they all kind of play on each other, yeah? All right, so team 3, can we start with you? Oh, yes, you're right here. I just said that. I didn't even look down. So you guys are just going to give 2.
It's on.
You guys are going to give 2 highlights. Count them, 1, 2, not 7, not 12, 2. Just thoughts, highlights, again, not answers to questions or a question that your team was like, you know what, this is the one, all right? 2 options. Anything that comes to mind from your conversation. Team 3.
If you could stand up for me.
Okay, let me confer. I was unaware as I was going to be speaking, so I was just taking notes.
Voluntold.
Okay, so,
Standardize, industry one,
okay,
and then also the application process, and then
Hello.
equitable. So basically kind of just this one and this one. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. So I think the 2 things that we talked about a lot, one is that we believe, this is in response to the question kind of like, should school choice be a right for all students in DeKalb? We think yes, but the process has to be more equitable. There needs to be equitable access and clear requirements from eligibility to expectations. And then also in this kind of considering changing requirements for more diverse program access, we think that the requirements need to be standardized and streamlined across the district. So we think that there's a lot of people doing a lot of different things, and that leads to the lack of equity. So we're trying to figure out how can it be standardized so that everyone is getting access to the same things. Sound good?
Yeah. I just want to point out that similar to what just happened here is going to be the type of recommendation we may give to the board. We are not giving super specifics like, at Bowie, you should do Y. That's not what we're doing. We're giving an overall how we think a process should happen or what we think the process should be. The how is going to be all the 17 million people at the district that do the day-to-day work. Just wanted to point that out. That was very eloquently said, and thank you. I'll let Kayla tell us who's next.
We're gonna go with team 2.
Should I be the speaker? Yeah. All right, so I'll.
If you could stand for me as well.
Oh, yeah, okay. I'll talk about 2 of the things that we dug into the most, one of which is the exceptional programs. So one of the questions that arose when we were discussing this was how many students across the district actually meet the criteria for these schools versus the students being served at the schools. And kind of tangential to that, how many of those students are then opting for private school to meet their needs versus staying within DeKalb County schools? And that data wasn't available in that private school data, so it'd be helpful to see if we could get numbers that supplemented the exceptional schools. And then we got very animated during the IB discussion. And so one of the big questions that we have for the district is, why don't we offer the middle years program? Why is there a gap between middle school offerings and the 11th and 12th grade? Why is the district not paying for it, if that is the reason why that we don't offer it? And why is the implementation of the IB program different from elementary school and middle school into high school? So that's where we landed.
Thank you.
All right, team 1.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Team 1. Some of the hot topics for us coming out this evening. What are the requirements for schools to be included in school choice was a major question for us. We noticed that everyone seems to be an option. We also had a question around what our parents are actually choosing. The choice itself varies dramatically, and that I think makes it very hard to determine what should be placed where you're not really, you don't have the best grasp or the motivating factors. So I guess that would be our two.
That is hot indeed. So I want to say 2 points on that. One, the school choice data online that I gave you guys in your Google Docs is like there are 30,000 applicants. That's because families can choose as many as they want. I just want to be clear about what we're looking at, right? Which we may be changing. But because if you really want an option, I know my first solid two, and I might have a third, right? 17, that tells me, this is not data driven, this is Sarita's processing, that you just don't want to be where you're assigned. That is a very different process than there are 100,000 kids who are amazing at performing arts and qualify for DAA, right? Those are different issues. And I will say that I really do believe it is the former, and we're trying to find data on that's going to be difficult because I don't know how honest people are, but I will say that we did receive a pretty good chunk of almost about 2,000 survey results already. And one of the questions, I broke down the 6 buckets of programs like we have in school choice, and overwhelmingly families were like, we don't even know what this is. So I have a few questions and maybe a few suggestions, but I think that's a really good point and hot topic.
Hi, our group, we're number 5, group 5, and we spent an awful lot of time thinking about what the trade-offs were between the resources that we put into all of this multitude of different choices and what we are then foregoing in terms of providing a uniform high level of instruction and resources at our neighborhood schools. And so we were really looking for data as it related to what's the actual performance of these special programs. You know, our charter schools are evaluated in terms of their scoring and the actual tangibles on it, not so much with our school choice program. So we really think that we need to do that. And then we also spent a lot of time thinking about how much of school choice is about trying to get your kid into a cohort of other students that you feel are, upwardly bound versus you're trying to actually get special services, whether you're trying, because that's the same thing really that kids go to private school for, right? It's not necessarily special instruction, it's because you want to be amongst the cool kids. So we think that it's important that neighborhood schools can do what they can to replicate the demographics of the county as a whole so that there aren't rich schools and very poor schools. And then when you have kids selecting out, often you're losing the folks that have more resources from those schools. And so even then you're pushing the poorer schools down, even further with the ones that remain there. So those types of things, really trying to evaluate the programs. Maybe we were coming up with conclusions about should we have quite so much diversity and choice, or should we put more of our resources in making sure that every single school has a high level of instruction, that the facilities are well maintained, and that all of the technology is there. Go, yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm standing.
Got this.
Well, it's just a question that I brought up kind of towards the end that I don't know that we fully discussed, but I think bears asking is, unfortunately, is if in fact the Department of Education at a federal level does in fact change or go away, then does it change what we're doing in here? And does it expand what we're able to do in here? Does it limit what we're able to do in here? And what, it's just simply that, what does this meeting now, what does this committee now look to, and what does it look like in light of changing policies and things like that going forward? If this is all different next year, do we have more opportunity to, to speak into that? Do we have less? So it's just a question that I think I wanted to bring up, so, yeah.
Thank you.
All right, team 4.
Bringing us home.
Okay, we addressed standalone schools, and we said that sometimes a specific opportunity is only at that standalone school and it's not offered in the other schools. And due to geographics, sometimes that location is limiting to others that want to go there. We also talked about students that clearly are not going to college, that don't want to go to college, being able to offer them an opportunity when they graduate from high school to be able to have an employable a skill where they are able to be employed. Looking at the gray collar jobs now, there are jobs that students can get certifications and training through technical schools, apprenticeships, that they're able to earn $100,000 and more when they, within a couple years. Why are we not offering those opportunities for our students? I think, let's see, was there anything else? I think that's it.
Did you want to say something, CTAE? Getting there. Hold on. She got ahead of mic.
Something happened that people aren't aware of. There are a lot of wonderful things going on in the district through student advancement, through CTAE. We've got push plan to connect the 4 E's that Dr. Horton often speaks about. We have fantastic work-based learning opportunities, apprenticeships, pre-apprenticeships that are connected to high skill, high wage, high demand. What we need to work on is access for everybody. And so it is amazing for me to hear the different conversations. I try to attend most of these so that I can push in and answer questions as needed. But our biggest takeaway is marketing and then accessibility, because there are wonderful things already happening. We just need to make sure everybody knows and can get to them.
All right, one more comment and then we are going to wrap it up.
So I wanted to make a comment about, in reference to the accessibility, which we actually didn't talk about, and it doesn't seem like anyone has talked about, but with school choice is the transportation issue. Did y'all talk about it? Because we didn't. They talked about it too. Okay, well, good. I'm glad everybody talked about it, because I do think that is a real limiting factor in the equity piece and the access piece, is that with school choice, you have to get yourself there, and that's the unfortunate piece of that.
And it's also not consistent across programs, because some have transportation and some don't. Sort of have transportation. So that is a real issue. So I think I appreciate, and I mean, just for the camera, I did not prep anyone to talk about equity, so I appreciate that the equity conversation has come up pretty much at everyone's table, because if we are going to offer high quality neighborhood and school choices, they still have to get there. They still have to be accessible, which probably means you can't have this one specialized thing here and then hope that kids can reach it. So we really have to, it's gonna be some hard conversations about what are we really grounding, priorities and considerations, what becomes a priority when we're really talking about programs, what becomes a priority when we're talking about buildings, because that's gonna weed some stuff out. And some of that may be surprising as we start coming along, even if it's, school our children go to, right? Because it's not about us, it's about like what becomes a priority for the district. So very much so appreciated. Great job. I don't know what is going on with my technology today, but it doesn't like us. Yay. All right. So homework, we have a new school choice website. Please check it out. I think I mentioned at a few tables, like my child is in a school choice program and I did the application and I was completely lost. I didn't understand the website, so we changed it. My kudos to my great team who helped us really think through the process and again, pushing families to really think about programs. So when you go to that website, one of the top banners is what program, and then it's bucketed by pretty much everything in your packet came from our new website, right? Like for the school choice section. So check that out, look at that. I showed you some Godot information and some historical data in your drive, so make sure you guys check that out. And then happy holidays, because we're probably not gonna see you till January. Oh, you like us. That's so cute. We love you guys too. And then if you guys can fill out that exit ticket, I really do. Kayla and I have an actual date after our meetings to look at that and shift our meetings and change it for you guys. And we'll do the best we can to start gathering all of your questions and getting some answers to you guys by not the January meeting, because you got one more learning, and then February. We're going to all come together again at AIC as a big group and talk about the answers to these wonderful questions you guys have. Thank you. We really appreciate your time.
Please leave your name on your table for me. That would be great.
Please leave your name tents on the table. We'll collect them.